Good morning, children. Today we will be studying about a new chapter, that is microorganisms, friends and foe. Before starting with the chapter, we should understand what does this word microorganisms mean. Now these are organisms that cannot be seen by unaided eyes. We require a microscope to see them. Now there are various groups of microorganisms. These are viruses, bacteria, fungi, algae and protozoa. Now let us study them one by one. The first group of microorganisms are viruses. Now you are very well aware with this word viruses. These are said to be a link between the living and the non-living. Now why are they said so? Because these viruses, when they are outside the host body, they just are like crystals, or we can say that they do not divide or they do not reproduce. So when they are outside the host body, they do not reproduce, but the moment they enter into the host body, they start reproducing. Therefore, they are said to be a link between the living and the non-living. In case of viruses, almost all the viruses will be causing diseases in plants, animals, human beings, and apart from it, they are also going to be infecting bacteria. Now this particular organism, here it is written bacteriophage. Now this bacteriophage means that this is a virus which will be infecting a bacteria. This is a virus for the causing of AIDS, that is human immunovirus HIV. This is for hepatitis B. This is for rabies, and this is for influenza. So these are various different kinds of viruses which are going to be causing diseases in human beings. The next group of organisms are bacteria. These are unicellular structures. They are found in air, water, soil, and also in places such as marshy lands, very hot desert, hot water springs, and also in very cold places. So we can find this bacteria almost in every type of habitats. They can be free living, that means they can get their own food, they can make their own food. They are saprophytic, that means they live on dead and decaying organism, and also they are parasitic, that means they are going to be living in a host body. They may cause disease or they may not cause disease, because you have seen, we all know that there are large number of bacteria present in our intestine. These do not cause any type of disease in us. On the other hand, it helps in the digestion of food. So they are going to be symbiotic bacteria. Since they live in our body, they are parasitic, but they are not going to be causing any type of diseases. Now they are of various shapes, rod shaped, spiral as well as circular in shape. They usually live in colonies, that means they live together, and they are useful as well as harmful in nature. Now here we see this is a type of rod shaped bacteria which is commonly found in curd, that is lactobacillus. This is a spiral shaped bacteria which causes cholera. This is a bacteria which is going to be causing typhoid, that is Salmonella typhi. So these are various, this is rod shaped bacteria, These are circular shaped bacteria, these are spiral shaped bacteria. So all different types of bacteria are going to be present around us. The next group of organisms are fungi. They are very common, and you must all have seen mushrooms growing during the rainy season, and these mushrooms are a member of this group which we call as the fungi. They are mostly multicellular in nature except for one which is known as yeast, and yeast is unicellular in nature. They are found in moist and warm conditions. They are saprophytic in nature, but some are parasitic also, and mostly they cause diseases in plants. This particular one which we see here is of Penicillium notatum, from which the antibiotic penicillin was extracted. So this, but apart from it, you must all have seen bread molds, and they are also going to be an example of fungi. So bread molds, yeast, penicillin, mushrooms, they are all going to be examples of fungi. The next group of organisms are protozoa. They are unicellular, free-living organisms, mostly aquatic in nature. They are aquatic in nature, and almost all are free-living except a few, such as Plasmodium, which causes malaria in human beings. There is another unicellular protozoa known as Trypanosoma, which causes sleeping sickness in or human beings. So these are parasitic in nature, but mostly they are going to be free living. Examples here are, you are all very well aware with this organism which is called as amoeba. This is Euglena, Paramecium, Vorticella. See, these are various different types of protozoa present. The next group of organisms are algae. These algae are multicellular except for Chlamydomonas. They are aquatic in nature and all are photosynthetic. They have green color chlorophyll present in them. This particular organism, this particular algae is of Spirogera. You can see these type of spiral shaped structures present in them. Therefore, it is called as Spirogera. There are many algae. They can be in various different colors also. They can be red algae. And children, a very interesting part is that the Red Sea looks red because they have a large number of this red algae present in them. These algae mostly are being used as seafood, and also the red algae and some more algae are used to extract a substance which is called as agar, which is used in research activities. So they are helpful, and also they will be acting as autotrophs and food for aquatic animals. So these are going to be important groups. Then let us come to a very important part, the friendly microorganisms. Now these microorganisms are going to be used for various different purposes. First of all, curd, which is one of the most common edible item which we consume, is made by a bacteria which is called as lactobacillus. Lacto comes from lactose sugar which is present in milk, and bacillus is rod shaped bacteria. So therefore this organism, bacteria which is lactobacillus, is used in the preparation of curd. Secondly, yeast is used in the preparation of bread. The bread Or you all know that when we make idlis or dosas or doklas, they are all going to be requiring to be fermented. This process, yeah, this takes place in the presence of yeast. So yeast is going to be useful for making bread, then idlis, dosas, etc. Secondly, the commercial use of a microorganism is in making alcohols. Now this alcohol is useful. Why? Because this alcohol is a basic product for large number of syrups, that is cough syrups, as well as the homeopathic medicines. Apart from it, this alcohol is a very important ingredient of all sorts of disinfectants. So therefore this alcohol is a very important substance. It is also being used for making alcoholic beverages. Now this takes place by a process which is called as fermentation, and which takes place in sugar. Sugar is fermented and it is converted into alcohol in the presence of yeast. So fermentation is a process in which the sugar gets converted into alcohol in the presence of yeast. So that is one of the important uses of microorganisms. Then microorganisms are being used for making vaccines and antibiotics. Now what are antibiotics? Antibiotics are medicines which are used to kill or stop the growth of disease causing organisms, especially bacteria. So antibiotics will be used to kill bacteria. Whenever we take an antibiotic or whenever we get an infection, the doctors prescribe us with certain antibiotics. So these antibiotics are specially going to be used against bacteria. And the very common antibiotics are streptomycin, tetracycline, terramycin, and you are all aware with an ointment which is called as soframycin. That is also antibacterial in nature. Now the first antibiotic which was made was penicillin, which was made by an fungus, Penicillium notatum. It was prepared by or extracted by Alexander Fleming in 1929. He was working with some other bacteria and suddenly came across a fungus which did not allow the bacteria to grow. So leaving the study of bacteria, he started finding out and came to know about these antibiotics. Secondly, vaccines. You all know that nowadays a pandemic is being spreading, that is the COVID-19, and scientists all over the world are trying to find a vaccine against it. Now vaccines are medicines which are produced by the dead viruses in order to increase the immunity of the body. Now these vaccines, they will be administered or they will be injected into our body. They will be containing the dead part of the virus itself. When it enters into our body, our blood cells or our immune system recognizes it and makes antibodies against them. Now these antibodies will be, if that infection or the virus enters into our body some other time, the immune system recognizes it and automatically is going to be then killing the microorganism or especially viruses entering into our body. So in this way, the vaccines will be helpful in increasing the immunity of the body. There are many vaccines which are being made. You all know that the vaccines are being given or administered for tuberculosis, measles, rubella, hepatitis, diphtheria, and also whooping cough. And these are administered right from the time when the child is being born, and given almost till the age of 5, so that they can be immune against various different types of diseases. You are all very well aware with the pulse polio program, which is there, which has been introduced in order to free India from the dreaded disease of polio. Now next, the increase in the fertility of the soil. Bacteria, which is rhizobium, which we have also already studied in our previous chapter also, we have studied it in the 7th class also, that this rhizobium bacteria lives in the root nodules of the leguminous plants, and they have a capacity to fix atmospheric nitrogen into soluble nitrogenous compounds, and they help in increasing the fertility of the soil. One other group of organisms, that is blue-green algae, are also responsible for such fixation of nitrogen, and thus helps in the increasing the fertility of the soil. Lastly, these microorganisms also, which will be acting as decomposers, or they will be saprophytic in nature, whether it is fungi or bacteria, they will be helping in the cleaning of the environment. So we see that these microorganisms are going to be very important, help us in making curd, bread, alcohol. They help in making of antibiotics, vaccines, and also increase the fertility of the soil, and also help in the cleaning of the environment. So in this way, these microorganisms are very, very useful to all of us. Now, apart from being useful, the microorganisms are going to be harmful also. Which way they will be harmful? They cause diseases in plants, human beings, and also animals. Secondly, they cause spoilage of food, and thirdly, they cause food poisoning. Now, one by one, we are going to be discussing them. First of all, they will be causing diseases in plants, as we have already discussed in the portion of fungi, that they cause diseases in plants. So most of the plant diseases, they are caused by fungi. Some of the plant diseases which are caused by some fungi are smut of wheat, rust of wheat. Then the bacteria also are going to be causing diseases in plants. The viruses also are going to be causing disease in the mosaic disease of tobacco. So these are all going to be diseases which are going to be caused in the plants. In human beings also, they cause large number of diseases. Many diseases, whatever disease you are going to be thinking of, whether it is typhoid, cholera, influenza, all are going to be caused by various different types of microorganisms. Diseases such as anthrax, foot and mouth disease of cattle, they are found in animals. Then next is the spoilage of food. If we keep food outside the refrigerator even for 4 to 5 hours, you all know that the food gets spoiled. That is because of the presence of the bacteria which have entered into the food from the air and will be causing diseases there. Then they cause food poisoning. Bacteria which is called as salmonella, that is, and clostridium also, they cause food poisoning. The food gets bad, and where a person consumes the food, toxic substances enter into the body, and they are going to be causing diseases in organisms. Now, how do these diseases, these organisms enter into our body? These organisms enter into the body through air, water, food, as well as by physical contact. Such diseases which can be spread from an unhealthy person to an healthy person are called as communicable diseases. And as we have discussed, they are spread through air, water, food, and through physical contact. Now normally what happens is that the way the microorganism enters into the body, that part of the body is going to be getting infected. If the organism enters into our body through our nose, our respiratory system is going to be getting infected. So when we get influenza or when we get cough and cold, the virus enters into our body through the nose, and we get that problem of cough and cold. Secondly, when it enters through our mouth, that is when we eat contaminated food or drink contaminated water or take dirty hands into our mouth, then our digestive system is going to be getting infected. We get diseases such as diarrhea, cholera, dysenteries. So thirdly, by physical contact, it can be on the skin also. For example, the ringworms, they will be causing infections on the skin. It may also enter into your body. For example, the chicken pox, it spreads through from one person to another through the physical contact. Another very important way of transmission of diseases is through various different organisms which are called as carriers, or they are also called as vectors. Now these vectors or carriers, they carry the disease causing microorganism into their body and will be causing diseases, will be helping in the spread of the disease. The very common example is of female Anopheles mosquito, which spreads disease such as malaria. There is another organism which is called as female Aedes mosquito, which is responsible for the spread of a viral infection which is called as dengue. Now how is it going to be carrying? When the mosquito bites an unhealthy person and sucks blood into its body, a microorganism which is present in the blood enters into the stomach of the mosquito. When the same mosquito bites an healthy person, it injects certain chemicals into the body of the healthy person which carry the disease causing microorganism, and in this way causes disease to an healthy person also. So vectors or carriers will be responsible for transmission of disease. There is another carrier which doesn't carry organism into its body, but it carries organism outside the body. The housefly. You all know the housefly sits on dirty garbage and other things. When it from the dirty places, the microorganism sticks onto the hair, very tiny hair present on their legs and on their body. When it sits on food or open food or water, the microorganisms are transferred, and in this way a person who is going to be consuming that contaminated food will get the disease. So in order to prevent ourselves or protect ourselves from these diseases, we have to keep our surroundings very clean so that organisms such as mosquitoes and housefly do not breed and they do not cause diseases in us. So these microorganisms thus are going to be harmful also. Now lastly, since microorganisms cause spoilage of food, therefore food preservation is going to be an important part here. Now, food, since is an important thing for all of us, therefore it is required that the food should be preserved properly. There are various different methods of food preservation. First is the chemical method. In this method, there are certain chemicals such as sodium benzoate, sodium metabisulfate, which are added to sauces, pickles, jams, etc., so that they do not get spoiled when kept for a longer period. Secondly, common salt which we get at home is also a very good preservative. It is used to preserve food items such as tamarind and fishes. Also, you must have seen your mother adding a little bit of more salt to the pickles so that they do not get spoiled. The reason behind it is that when the salt is being added, it makes the surrounding in such a way that microorganisms are not able to grow there, and thus the food items are preserved. The same way, sugar is used to preserve jams, jellies, squash, and the same thing here also, that they also are not going to be it is not going to be allowing microorganisms to grow there. Vinegar and oil are also used to store specially pickles, because microorganisms are not able to grow in such environments, such conditions where there is lot of oil, where there is vinegar, so they are not able to grow there, and in this way our food such as pickles are going to be stored. Then we have the hot and the cold treatment, which is also called as the method of pasteurization. Pasteurization was first done by Louis Pasteur, and he was the one, and after his name this process was named. His process was named after he discovered this process. Now what have to be done here? Here the milk is being first boiled to 70 degrees for about 15 to 30 seconds. For that time the milk has to be boiled, and then it is suddenly chilled. Now first of all, boiling is going to be destroying large number of microorganisms present in the milk. Then when we suddenly chill it, automatically the organisms which were not being killed, they just are going to be getting killed, and in this way the milk becomes preserved and we can use it for a long period of time. The milk which we get in our milk parlors is going to be called as pasteurized milk. Then use of proper storage containers and proper packaging. We have to use good containers which are airtight so that microorganisms do not enter into it. We can at normal households we use various different substances such as neem leaves or some other substance to preserve the food items which are going to be used for a longer period of time. Apart from that, cold storages are also going to be one of the methods in which we see that when vegetables and fruits are brought from various different places to our town, they are being kept in cold storages, and whenever required they are being taken out from them and being distributed and sold at various different markets. The same thing is being kept in you must have seen in retail departmental shops that they are going to be having cold storages present where they keep substances such as milk, curd and some types of fruits, so that it can be some vegetables also, cut fresh vegetables also, so that they can be kept for a longer period of time. So these are some various different food preservation techniques. Lastly, we'll be studying about nitrogen cycle, and this nitrogen cycle you are going to be studying better by a video which will be shared later on. Thank you students, hope you could understand the chapter well.